What's the feeling about facing Vegas again? We're going to make a big deal about it. Do you guys see it as different than just a regular playoff matchup, I guess?
No, just another playoff series that we're excited to get going here, and obviously they're a good team, defending champs. Pretty solid from top to bottom, and it'll be a great series.
What have you guys done in the past 8 days? You had one game, but it seems like there's been a lot of attention to detail in practice.
Yeah, like every other team, really. Going through all scenarios and trying to break down the other team. We're pretty familiar with these guys, obviously, as they are with us. Seen a lot of each other, and we're just excited to get this thing going.
Does it mean a little bit more since they were the ones that eliminated you guys last year, or is this just a new season and it's just a new story?
Just a whole new year. We worked hard throughout the season to get to where we are. Now that we got 8 teams in the West here all set, it's a whole new season. So we're ready to go.
You guys started with a philosophy of signing the banner and everything, of taking a little bit less individually means a little bit more for the team. How has that manifested? Because it seems like when you look at everything, the 4 lines, everything balanced, the scoring, it really worked perfectly.
Yeah, I think, right from day one, our whole group has bought into that. Putting the team first for any individual stats or accomplishments, and it's paid off. We feel we got a great group in here, and we're going to try and keep that going here.
When you look around, do you see like each guy is kind of taking a turn? They've had their moment of, hey, this is great, and then I think as a teammate, you're like, it's great to see Mush or whoever have a great game, and it just seems like that really has balanced out over the year.
Yeah, I think that's one of our strengths is we're a deep group. We feel our guys can step up, any given night, and I think that's what makes us a good team.
What did you learn just from playing them last year that you need to apply this year? Like, what were the keys to that series in your mind?
They're heavy and hard. They got a great forecheck, block a lot of shots. They got big D. I think net front battles are going to be key to this series.
Like, you guys are one of the best teams in the league at deflections, and Pavelski's great. What do you have to do to get inside against big D like that? Like they have?
You got to go there. They can try to keep you out, which they're going to do. It comes down to how determined you are to get there, and that's where all the goals are scored in the playoffs. We've been put through Pavelski tipping school all year, and we're hoping that pays off.
I do remember, like, a lot of people talk about their forecheck. The game, 2 games you won, you had a good forecheck yourself, right? Like, it's easier said than done. Whichever team establishes it, but is there any key to that?
I guess you obviously want to put the puck in the right spot to get on a good forecheck and do your job. I think teams forecheck as a group of 5 nowadays than just 1 or 2 guys, so it's being connected, getting the job done.
How much different do you feel like the 2 teams are? Like, do you feel like you guys are in a different place than you were a year ago, and you think they're in a different place than they were?
It's 2 great teams. It's going to be a hell of a series, and like I said, I'm looking forward to it. We've been sitting around for a few days here, so we're excited to go.
As much as you and Joe, I think, have helped Logan, how much has Wyatt helped Logan? I think it just seems that it's going to be a lot of pressure stepping into your first playoff game, but he seems to have a guy who's got some pretty good ideas to help him out.
Yeah, I'm sure Wyatt's got a pretty fresh mind of what he went through last year, and he can only help Stank. We're going to do our best to keep him calm, but he's also got to go out there and not change his game. Keep playing the way he does. He's a great player, and I'm sure Johnny will help him along the way as well.
And it seems like a process too. You're going to be better in game 8, hopefully, or 10 than you were in game 1. And I think Wyatt showed that last year.
Right. It's going to be exciting for him to get his feet wet here. Hopefully jump out of the gates hot, but I'm excited to play alongside him. That's for sure.
How hyped are you to get going?
Yeah, just excited to, like you said, get going. We've had some time off, it feels like, so we've been chomping at the bit to just get started. And watching the games last night just makes it feel that much more real. And now we're just excited to get going.
Does the fact that that was the team that knocked you guys out increase the intensity, or is it just another playoff?
I don't know. Like, we'd be as fired up if we were playing anyone else, but obviously, you want a chance to, beat the team that knocked you out last year, and we didn't know if it would be now or down the road. So, if we want to be the champs, it's a good way to start. To have to take those guys down, obviously, great team, and they know how to win. So it's going to be a fun challenge.
Is it easier or harder playing against the same team for you as a goalie?
Like continuous games?
Yeah.
I think it can be both. I think you can get into a good rhythm. But then, if they think they see something on you, maybe then it could be hard. But I think, I'd never experienced that until I was in the NHL. Like, never played playoffs like that before. Obviously, in college is different. So I think it's fun, and that's what makes it so heated. Is you get cheap shotted by someone in game 3. You have a couple games to get them back or stuff like that. So it's just going to be a fun, intense series.
Have you gone through the goals from last year and said, like, here's places I could have been?
No, not at all. Maybe I should do that.
Jake, when you look at Vegas, you haven't seen them since December, and you obviously haven't seen them with Hurdle and the entire group they have now. How do you scout them? How do you prepare for this?
Yeah, I think just kind of watch what they've done lately, and obviously, they haven't had like their full lineup in the past few weeks, so it's kind of going to be like see what they have in game 1 and then kind of adjust from there. But obviously, kind of they're big guys and what they did well against us last year. Obviously, we can look at that and try to change the script a little bit. And for me, just knowing the guys on the ice and what they like to do and stuff like that.
It's been a while, but what did you guys do well at the 2 games you won against them last year?
I have no idea. I don't remember, honestly.
So I thought you might say.
Yeah, I have no idea. We lost game 1 and 2 in overtime too, so obviously tight series. Could have gone either way like that. So just we know we're going to be in for a hell of a fight, and just so excited. Like it's just going to be so fun.
Defensively, a lot has improved here in the last month or so, but how much are you feeling the presence of Chris Tanev?
Yeah, I think a ton. I think he's just like rock solid, and takes a lot of pride in playing well in our end, and takes a lot of pride in his role and stuff. Obviously, as a goalie, he's kind of, if I could create a player, it would probably be him to play in front of me. Just solid, great guys, fit in really well. So it's been good.
When you break down tape for this series, do you look more at what you yourself are doing, or is it more about the shooters? And can you overthink it if you do too much? Yeah,
for sure. I think you can overthink it. I think for me, it's try to just focus on myself and what I've done well lately, and feel really confident about my game right now. And it doesn't matter who we play in this first round. It just kind of, like you said, focus on myself and a couple things here and there. But other than that, just mainly myself.
You talked after the last game just about everything you've gone through this season. Is there anything you do in particular as far as getting your brain, like do you take a moment in a day or things like that, or just do mind exercise? I don't know.
Yeah, just
visualization.
A little bit of that stuff, but just try to, when I'm away from the rink, try to not be a hockey player and enjoy myself, be with my friends, my family, my fiance, and they make me feel good. And then when I'm at the rink, be all about hockey. So I think I found a pretty good balance of both.
What do you do? Is it movies, Netflix,
Yeah,
video games?
Golf as much as I can.
You actually golf?
Yep.
Is that like
Yep.
the process for, like, you go to the driving range, you actually go and
Everything,
golf?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, as much as I can.
Interesting.
Yep.
What's
Are you
your
getting better?
handicap?
3. Yeah. I'm getting,
You're okay.
you could say that.
Does that explain the hat?
It does. Yeah, all the stuff I wear is golf stuff pretty much. So, yeah, you notice that. All my street
Between
clothes.
you and Paz this season, who has the advantage right now?
He does. Yeah, not even close. So, I'm getting there, though, one day.
I guess we're doing this dance again, eh? Taylor, Leah, you guys want to get to start?
So you've got a lot of late start times coming up over these next couple of days. Does that throw things off at all? Does it change how you go into the day?
Yeah, I mean, I think the 8:30 start, which is really an 8:50 puck drop, is you know, there's no way around that. It does mess a little bit with your day, and it messes probably more with your next day because by the time you get out of the rink, you know, decompress, the players cool down, eat. You know, a lot of these guys aren't getting to sleep. You know, it's tough enough to sleep after a big game. You throw overtime in. The biggest effect is usually on the next day.
Are you worried about that, considering how many last year went to overtime?
Yeah. No, I'm not worried about it. It is what it is. You deal with it. I think being a Central Division team, I think, you know, we deal with the late starts because of television, and it's just something that comes with our location and the division we're in.
Is that why you try to get more out of these first couple of days, because you may end up having to cancel practice
Yeah.
or make them optional?
Yeah, I don't anticipate a lot of off-day practices with the 8:30 starts. Now, we haven't got start times for the rest of the schedule yet, but we'll see where that goes. But, you know, it's going to be really tough between 1 and 2 and probably between 2 and 3, you know, to practice the next day anyway. 3 will probably practice the morning we fly.
What have you
Mike.
accomplished in these couple of days? Seems like a lot of detail work.
Yeah, a lot of detail work. You know, it's nice to have some practices. I think our game has been in a good place for a while here, and so you're just sharpening up some details. There's some things that Vegas does that's unique to Vegas that you want to talk about, but, you know, for me, we can't get paralyzed from that by that. Our game, you know, is good, and when we're on it, you know, I put it up there against anybody.
Perhaps you just answer what I'm going to ask, but
Nick?
I know how well you know them.
Yeah.
What are your unknowns? Is it just who's in the lineup? How's your lineup look with just their
Oh, I think we all know who's in the lineup, don't we? Come on. Are we really doing that?
I don't know, just Stone and Petrangelo,
Yeah.
Carrier.
I'm assuming they're all in, yeah. So, you know, I think that's the assumption, and good, you know, let's go, drop the puck.
Pete, last year you called the series a war.
Yeah,
You said a couple days ago you expect another war. I
Yeah.
don't know how much you caught of that at Boston Toronto game last
Yeah.
night, but I mean it really ratchets it up, and being the first round
Yeah.
series this time around, I guess how does that change, if at all, in terms of that switch?
Yeah. Well, I think, and Butch would probably say the same thing. I think early in the playoffs, you're always managing some emotion, you know, from your players. It's really the first time a lot of us have had any kind of extended period off to kind of recharge, you know, as a group. So you've got, you know, energy levels back up high. You've got, you know, in Vegas's case, guys coming back after sitting for a while. They're going to be up here. You know, first game of the playoffs, everyone goes to here. So, you know, as a coach, you know, you've always got to manage that a little bit, and you got to expect that, you know, you're going to see some things that you're not going to see as the series you get into the meat of the series. I think the teams are going to settle into playing the way that we normally play. But not surprising you see that around the league in game one anywhere, and I would expect it's probably going to be a lot of the same here.
I guess how much leeway do you have to, like,
Yeah.
given that, you know, that first period,
Yeah.
before you know, say something, or?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. You know, we both have experienced groups, so, you know, I think we talk about it. I think, you know, we know the importance of the early parts of the series, particularly last year, losing the first 2 games in overtime and getting in that hole. You know, was essentially the series. You know, we tried to climb back in, but you get in a hole, I think, against a really good team at this time of year, you know, early in a series, it's really hard to climb out.
When you look back to that series, is there
Ken?
an area that you think, like, that's maybe where we weren't good enough, and do you feel like that's going to be corrected this time around?
You know, I think Vegas showed they were a deeper team than everybody in the league last year, and everyone they went through, their depth, I thought decided the series. So I think the same. I mean, you can point to a technical thing here, a technical thing there, but that's the reality. They and you know what, the times I've lost in the final, most of the time it's been to a deeper team. So. Or every time it's been to a deeper team. I think that, and I think we've rectified that. I think we're in a much more level playing field this year.
You feel that on forwards and defense?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone's can compete with Vegas's defense depth-wise. I think that's something pretty special. But everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, and we might have better depth other places.
Are you better? The depth is number one. Are you better?
Yeah.
Other ways than you were last year, like scoring off
Yeah.
push, for example?
Yeah, we're a better team. But again, it's because of our depth. We talked here at length over the last 2 months. I mean, it was 12 months ago we were described as a one-line team, and essentially we probably were. I don't think anyone's using that adjective anymore. So.
You do all the planning. You've had a week to get ready for the playoffs, and then a few days for Vegas. When does the chess match of your adjustments really start to kick in?
I think after game one, I think, when you get in a series, I think the coaches go back and look at the tape and look at what was effective, what wasn't, what they maybe did that you didn't expect, or did really well, that you couldn't handle. I think that's when that starts. But I said this last year, you get to this point of the year, a lot of the coaching is done. You hand the keys to the players. They know what has to be done. There's adjustments here, there's adjustments there, but the players will decide. They always usually do.
Is there an emotional element to your depth as well? I mean, you guys signed the banner, the flag at the beginning of the year, and it just seems like there's support of when somebody else does something, you almost take as much pride in that as a player.
Well, I think we've gotten great buy-in on our depth. If you look at the minutes our forwards play, significantly lower than a lot of the top guys in the league, significantly more spread out, and in a lot of cases significantly less than where some of these guys had been playing in different spots they'd been in. So, we've gotten great buy-in there, and I think that's reflected in our record.
Has that allowed your team to be maybe fresher to start
For sure,
the playoffs?
fresher, less injuries. I think all those things have factored into that. I think that plays a role. We're not a young team, either. I think we've got a nice mix, but we've got some guys that wouldn't be considered young players. That also I think are much more effective with a little bit less.
It's routine, but starting goalie,
Oettinger.
any lineup changes?
Trying to think from our last game of the season. No, I think same lineup, yeah.
Rope had a breakout year last year in the playoffs. When you look back at it, is there anything you can analyze and say, this is what he does best, or did he raise his game to a certain level because of the playoffs? Or, how do you get back to that, I guess?
Yeah. Well, I think, every NHL player wants to be considered a playoff player. He wants to be, when the chips are on the line, the money time of the year, whatever adjectives you want to use to describe it, you want that part of your resume. And I don't think it's an accident he did what he did, and I think really that's in your DNA. I think once you do that, you have an internal expectation to do it again. Now, is he going to dominate numbers-wise like he did last year? I don't know. We're built a little bit differently this year than we were last year, but I'm confident, he's going to have a major impact again this playoff.
Pete, you look at what Jake Oettinger has done this month. What would you say it has been about this month where he's had sort of this consistency and continuity where it seems like at the end of every game, his save percentages are clearly above 920, 930, and just he looks so different than maybe what you saw throughout the whole year?
Yeah, good question. I think, you know, Jake's had quite a journey. You know, when you go back 12 months ago, you know, he was playing with an injury through the playoffs last year, had surgery in the off season, missed his training, came out of the gate surprisingly well, considering he missed an off season, and then I think it kind of hit him, and then he compounded that with another injury around Christmas time. So, you know, he's gone through a lot in the last 12 months. I think it's just the timing of getting his feet under him with what he's been through. I think that, and you combine the fact I think we've played tighter in front of him too the last month and a half, which helps all goalies.
You just called the Groundhog Day in there.
Yeah.
You know, and Bruce yesterday talked about it being kind of a budding Western Conference rivalry. Do you consider it one of the top Western Conference rivalries coming back again?
I would think so. I mean, I think anytime you're playing a team multiple times in the playoffs, especially year after year, you know, and I don't think either team's going away anytime soon. I think there's a lot of interconnections, obviously, between the two franchises, you know, and I think it's a great rivalry. I think it's great. You got two passionate fan bases. Both rinks are rocking. You know, great time of year. Excited.
Hey, Pete. Just to clarify on the lineup, you said same as last
Mm-hmm.
game, but assuming Tyler's back in.
Oh,
right?
sorry. Yeah.
And
That's what I was trying to.
It's been a lot of
Tyler's
days.
back in.
And then who is Dodonov? Is Dodonov going to be playing tonight?
Dodonov's in. Yeah.
So who comes out
Dodonov's in.
on the
So Smith comes out.
And how do you make those decisions?
Well, Dodonov's an easy one. You know, history with the player, history in the playoffs, type of game he plays. He had a good season this year. He missed a ton of time. He still had 12 goals, and you know a lot of them were even strength goals. I trust him this time of year. I think he's a playoff impact type player. His resume, you know, includes Olympics and World Championships at the highest level. He's built for this. So, you know, despite the fact he hasn't played recently, I think that's an easy decision to put him in. The tough decision is who comes out, and you know you're into things like face-offs and penalty killing and some situational role decisions that come into that.
Hey Pete, I'm curious. As far obviously the group made a lot of changes as far as Duchesne, a lot of veterans up front this year. But how important have the young guys been, like Johnston last year and having a big year this year, then Stankoven coming up and Harley this year? Just how much of those guys made an impact on this group? Yeah, the internal growth of those guys really has been the most important factor. You know, we've added some people for sure that have increased our depth and helped our depth, but those kids, you know, their development last year to this year, Thomas Harley and Wyatt Johnson particularly, but I put Stankoven in that category because, you know, he led the American League in scoring, came up here, made an immediate impact to our lineup in a bunch of different ways. So, you know, those guys have played a critical role in the depth of our team, you know, the success we've had during the regular season, and I'm excited about them in the playoffs. You know, what I loved about Wyatt and Harley last year, and I'm looking forward to with Logan this year, is just their unflappability. You know, they refuse to get intimidated or pushed out as young players. You know, and they played big roles last year, but they're in even bigger roles this year, both of them.
Yeah, you said at the end, opportunity. I've been a lot of years here where, you know, the first few were, you know, we didn't talk about Stanley Cup much. We talked about a lot more like just habits and, you know, getting the organization going in the right direction. And then there were many years here of just scratching and clawing in that wild card spot. And then as of late, you know, we've had years where there's more expectations. You know, it's kind of at the point now where it's, you know, Stanley Cup or failure. So that's it sounds negative, but that's what's super exciting.
Like you and Jamie had to carry the load for a long time, right? And I don't mean for you to disparage your old teammates, but like you've got more around you, right? Like the depth of this team and all the parts, correct?
Yeah, I feel like if you asked Jamie or I back then, you know, we'd be frustrated that we haven't gotten more pieces or, like you talked about. But when you see where our organization is today, that's because of things we did in the past. That's because of the patience our, organization and the guys in the front office have had. This isn't just like, we're a team that's going to be good for many years here. I mean, we have the ages all spread out. But yeah, looking on the roster and on paper, the opportunity we have here is awesome.
And I don't mean to dominate this, but in the mindset, right? I forget what the phrase is. I guess I am. A little bit less for a lot more.
Yeah.
Like that came from day one this year, right? And everybody seems to have bought into that. Just means less individually for more for the team, correct?
Pretty much. I mean, I think with any good hockey team or lineup that's deep, you're going to have guys that are maybe sacrificing in other personal categories. That's what makes you deep. You want to try to have 2 power plays when you can. You want to have a third or fourth line that could be a first or second line in another team. That's what makes teams great. And I think if you look at, Vegas last year, I don't think a team was deeper than them. Obviously looking at their roster today, I mean, they're deep again. But we have a lot more confidence in ourselves this year as far as what we think we can match up to.
Getting to the bubble and then getting to the Western Conference Final last year, do those things build the scar tissue as we talk about?
I'll always be scarred from the bubble, for sure. If we have another one of those, I might take the option and just say that's it. But
injury, I'm hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I think, in history of this sport or in any sports, you got to lose a lot to figure out winning. I don't know why that is, but it's just kind of how it is. You learn from different experiences. A lot of times when you win, you figure out how to win again as well because you kind of know what it takes. But to get to that first step as a group, you got to go through some of those tough times as a team, as individuals, and it helps guide you along the way for your next chance, and this is our opportunity.
Bruce and Cassidy have both talked about this being kind of a budding rivalry last year, the bubble, all that. Do you guys in here see it as one of the top Western Conference rivalries with these guys?
Yeah, now for sure. I mean, I don't think we would have thought about the bubble too much until they beat us last year. Then you kind of put it together that, maybe they're feeling a certain way that we're feeling this year. So it's 2 great teams going at it. I mean, on paper and their roster, I mean, you can look at it, it's a deep team. They've only gotten better since their roster last year. So, it's a huge challenge for us, and we're looking forward to the opportunity.
What's key tonight against these guys?
Get to our game quicker than they get to theirs. Game 1 playoffs, I mean, there's tons of emotions, and you're going to have butterflies in your stomach, and just look at it as the challenge, as exciting. Try to smile, try to get to your game quicker than they get to theirs as a team, as individuals, and have fun.
Well, the reason that you're in this locker room is Jim Nill was looking to bolster this lineup for a playoff run. For you, what are the emotions entering Game 1?
Yeah, just excited. Ended the season quite a while ago, it seems, so just been sitting waiting, and I think everyone's sort of ready to go and dialed in for tonight.
Do you sleep peacefully last night? Do you take the nap today, or are you a little too jacked up for that?
No, I slept pretty good, and I'll nap tonight. I mean this afternoon, sorry. But yeah, as I said, I think everyone's just eager and ready to go.
With Noah on the other side, there's obviously a connection between you two. Has there been any communication with him the last couple of days, or is it shut down?
No, once we saw we were playing each other, we just sort of halted all communication and be ready to go and then battle against him, and I think it'll be fun.
What's the most important thing for you tonight, just as a player and as a team?
Yeah, I think just do what we've been doing the last 2 months. I mean, we've been playing really good hockey, have had really good habits. Just trying to carry that over into tonight.
You go into tonight not knowing exactly what lineup they're going to put out there. Is that a challenge at all for you?
Yeah, we're worried about ourselves, and then playing the way we know how to play, and as I said before, creating good habits, doing the things that we've been doing the past 2 months.
Yesterday, Jake said that if he could create a defenseman to play in front of him, it would be you, and that you take a lot of pride in your game. Is that something that's just kind of carried throughout your career, the pride that you take in the defensive zone?
Yeah, I mean, you sort of, when you get into the league and you try to find your role and how you can help teams and how you can be effective, and it's sort of
going into a really good team in Vancouver, when I started, you definitely took pride in trying not to get scored against and breaking pucks out and doing the little things right. And I had a lot of really good veteran influence that taught me sort of how to be a pro and how to do things on and off the ice.
So then, based off that, if you could create a goaltender to play behind you, Jake Oettinger's got to be the guy, right?
Yeah, him, and he's amazing. He's been great since I've been here. So I mean, it's a pleasure to play in front of him. And as I said, I think we're all eager and ready to go for tonight.
What have you learned since you've been here that you didn't know on the outside? What have you learned since you've been here that you didn't know just from playing against?
Just how deep we are, I think. You go up and down the lineup, and I think there's no one playing really 24, 25 minutes. I mean, Miro and Will, obviously, if we need. But you look at our forwards and how spread out the minutes are, and I think that goes a long way. And you sort of don't realize that maybe from the outside. How sort of all four lines play in all areas pretty much of the game, and it's a huge impact for us.
You make your NHL playoff debut tonight. How'd you sleep last night?
I slept really good. Tried to get to bed at a decent time. Was watching lots of the games yesterday, so it's nice to get a feel for how things were and some exciting games to watch.
You mentioned watching the last couple of games. What's the emotions been like? Because this team's been waiting a while with practice days to get to this point.
A lot of close games, and yeah, I mean, even the Winnipeg-Colorado game, you think the game's over, but it's not. So just shows how much you need to stay focused and on your game, otherwise things can change fast.
Whether it's with the coaching staff, whether it's with veteran players, or even Wyatt, for you, what have the conversations been as you get your first taste of NHL playoff hockey?
I think just making simple plays, not trying to do anything too crazy too early in the game. I mean, the Vegas is a heavy, hard team, so just be good on the walls and just kind of do my thing.
You mentioned Vegas, and this locker room is very familiar, but the Stars haven't played them since December. You haven't played this team head-to-head. How do you approach a game like that when you're seeing an opponent truly for the first time, for you personally?
I mean, got to be aware of some of their top guys, but when you go out there, you just kind of focus on yourself and what you can do to make a positive impact each shift.
Do you and Wyatt in the carpools, have you talked about this whole situation at all, or have you tried to keep it away from hockey?
Sometimes we'll talk about it, but we usually, just try and focus on whatever we have going on that day. We'll talk about hockey when it comes to it, but yeah.
In terms of what you've chatted about with Wyatt, do you want to share any of that, or do you know that you have to lock down the information here at the NHL level when it comes playoff time?
Just lock it down for now. Yeah.